mockery begins. The massive space station Nexus Prime hung like a steel jewel against the backdrop of countless stars. Its gleaming corridors stretched for miles, housing representatives from dozens of galactic civilizations. Today, those corridors buzzed with tension and whispered conversations about the newest threat to emerge from the dark corners of space. Captain Elena Vasquez walked through the station's main hall, her boots clicking against the polished metal floor. Her simple grey uniform stood out among the elaborate ceremonial armor and flowing robes worn by the other species representatives. Behind her, Commander Marcus Chen carried a datapad containing Earth's military specifications, though he suspected few beings here would take them seriously. The Great Assembly Hall could hold 10,000 beings, and today it was nearly full. Towering above the crowd were the Saurians, their reptilian scales gleaming under the artificial lights. Admiral Krekstar, their supreme commander, stood nearly 12 feet tall, with arms like tree trunks and eyes that glowed yellow in the dim lighting. His massive battleships were legendary throughout the galaxy for their devastating firepower. Near the center of the hall, the Luminar Collective had gathered in their characteristic formation. High Priestess Zaralyn floated 3 feet above the ground, her translucent body shifting between different colors as her emotions changed. Around her, dozens of other Luminars pulsed with synchronized light patterns, creating an almost hypnotic display. Their energy-based technology was considered the most advanced in known space. In the darker corners of the hall, the hive mind's representatives clustered together. General Vorthok, standing 8 feet tall, with 4 arms and compound eyes that reflected light like black mirrors, commanded fleets of bioships, grown rather than built. Each vessel was alive, capable of healing itself and adapting to battle conditions in real time. Elena felt very small as she approached the central podium, where species were presenting their military contributions to the new galactic defense. Alliance, the threat that had brought them all together, was unlike anything they had faced before. The Void Reapers, as they had been named by the first species to encounter them, consumed entire star systems. They left nothing behind but empty space and silence. Admiral Krekstar's voice boomed through the hall as he finished his presentation. The Saurian Empire pledges 200 Dreadnought-class battleships to this alliance. Each vessel carries enough firepower to crack a planet's crust. Our armor can withstand direct hits from antimatter weapons. The Void Reapers will learn to fear Saurian might. The assembled beings rumbled their approval. The Saurian fleet was indeed impressive, with ships that measured over 2 miles in length and bristled with weapons that could be seen from space. High Priestess Zaralyn's melodic voice filled the hall next. The Luminor Collective offers 50 Transcendence-class energy vessels. Our ships exist partially outside normal space-time, making them nearly impossible to target. Our quantum disruption weapons can tear apart matter at the molecular level. As she spoke, holographic displays showed the Luminor ships, looking more like crystalline artwork than military vessels. They moved through space like living light, beautiful and deadly in equal measure. General Vorthok's clicking mandibles translated through the universal communicators. The hive mind contributes 100 bio-class living warships. Our vessels grow stronger with each battle. They learn enemy patterns and adapt their defenses accordingly. Our swarm fighters number in the millions. Elena watched the impressive displays with growing concern. Each species was contributing. Massive vessels with crews numbering in the thousands. The Saurian dreadnoughts alone carried more firepower than entire human fleets. How could Earth possibly contribute anything meaningful to this alliance? When her turn came to speak, stepped up to the podium. The hall fell silent, not out of respect, but out of curiosity about what the small human had to say. She activated her own holographic display, showing the human contribution to the Alliance. Earth pledges 48 vessels to the Galactic Defense Alliance. Alina began, her voice carrying clearly despite the hall's immense size. The display showed human ships, sleek and angular, but undeniably small compared to the alien vessels that had been presented earlier. Murmurs rippled through the crowd, and Alina could hear the tone of amusement in the various alien languages. Admiral Krekstar leaned forward in his massive chair, his yellow eyes fixed on Alina with what might have been concern. "Captain Vasquez, are you certain about these numbers? 48 ships seems insufficient for a species claiming to represent an entire world." Elena's jaw tightened, but she maintained her composure. "Admiral, I can assure you that our 48 vessels represent the finest Earth has to offer." High Priestess Zaralyn's form shifted to a pale blue color, indicating polite confusion. "Captain, forgive my ignorance of human specifications, but your largest vessel appears to be only 300 meters in length. Our smallest patrol craft is larger than your flagship." The comparison was indeed stark. Elena's flagship, the U.S. Endeavour, was a marvel of human engineering, but it looked like a fighter craft next to the alien capital ships. The entire human fleet could probably fit inside the cargo bay of a single Saurian dreadnought. "Size is not everything," Commander Chen spoke up from behind Alina. "Our ships are designed for efficiency and adaptability." General Vorthak's compound, eyes focused on Chen with what passed for amusement among his species. "Efficiency is meaningless if your weapons cannot penetrate enemy defenses. Our intelligence indicates that Void Reaper ships are heavily armored and shielded. What can your tiny vessels possibly accomplish against such targets?" Alina felt the weight of hundreds of eyes upon her. She had expected this reaction, but it still stung to hear Earth's military dismissed so casually. "Our ships may be smaller, but they are crewed by humans. We have a different approach to warfare." "Different how?" Admiral Krekstar's voice carried genuine curiosity now, though Alina could still hear the underlying skepticism. "We believe in adaptation, improvisation, and thinking outside established parameters," Alina explained. "While your species have developed impressive standardized tactics and overwhelming firepower, humans excel at finding unconventional solutions to impossible problems." The hall erupted in a cacophony of sounds that Elena's translator identified as laughter from a dozen different species. Admiral Krekstar's rumbling chuckle shook the floor beneath Elena's feet. "Captain Vasquez," the Saurian admiral said when the noise died down, "warfare is not about creativity or improvisation. It is about superior firepower, stronger defenses, and better tactics. These things require large ships, powerful weapons, and extensive crew training. Your creative approach may work against minor threats, but the Void Reapers are unlike anything we have ever faced." High Priestess Zaralyn's form shifted to a gentle yellow, indicating maternal concern. "Perhaps the humans could assist with supply runs or medical support. Surely there are ways to contribute that do not require direct combat." Elena's hands clenched into fists at her sides. The condescending tone was unmistakable, even through the universal translator. "High Priestess, with respect, humanity did not travel across the galaxy to serve as supply runners. We came here to fight alongside our allies as equals." General Vorthak's clicking grew more rapid, a sign of agitation. Your entire species has been in space for less than a century. My people have been perfecting warfare for 10,000 years. The Saurians have conquered half a galaxy. The Luminars transcended physical limitations millennia ago. What has humanity accomplished that makes you our equals? Marcus stepped forward. His young face flushed with anger. We have survived ice ages, world wars, plagues, and natural disasters that would have wiped out weaker species. We have gone from wooden sailing ships to interstellar travel in just a few hundred years. We have never backed down from a fight, no matter how hopeless it seemed. Admiral Krekstar nodded approvingly. Admirable spirit, young human. But spirit does not stop antimatter missiles or penetrate quantum shields. Your passion is noted, but passion without power is meaningless in real combat. Alina looked around the hall at the faces of beings who had already decided humanity's fate. They saw humans as brave but foolish, like children playing with toys while adults handled the real work. It was a familiar feeling for her species, always being underestimated by those who should know better. Very well, Alina said finally. The Galactic Defense Alliance is being generous to allow human participation at all. We accept whatever role you deem appropriate. The relief in the hall was palpable. High Priestess Zaralyn,'s form shifted to a warm gold color, indicating satisfaction and approval. The humans will be assigned to the support fleet. They can assist with evacuation operations and provide backup communication relays. When the main battle begins, they should maintain a safe distance from the primary combat zone. General Vorthak's mandibles clicked in agreement. The bioships will handle close combat. The Saurian dreadnoughts will provide heavy artillery. Support. The Luminar vessels will perform precision strikes. The humans can watch and learn how real warfare is conducted. As the assembly began to break up into smaller groups for tactical planning, Alina and Marcus found themselves largely ignored. The alien species clustered together, discussing battle strategies and ship deployments in languages that the human translators struggled to follow completely. Captain, Marcus whispered, are we really going to accept this? Being relegated to cleanup duty while they fight the real battle. Alina watched the massive alien beings planning their grand strategy. They moved with the confidence of species who had never truly been challenged, never faced an enemy that could match their conventional strengths. Their ships were impressive, their weapons devastating, their tactics refined over millennia of warfare. But Alina remembered her history. She remembered how smaller, more agile forces had defeated larger, more conventional armies throughout human history. She remembered how innovation and creativity had overcome superior numbers and firepower time and again. Marcus, she said quietly, let them underestimate us. Let them assign us to the sidelines. When the time comes, they will learn what humans can really do. The young commander nodded, understanding the determination in his captain's voice. Around them, the greatest military minds in the galaxy continued their planning, confident in their ability to defeat the Void Reapers through superior firepower and established tactics. None of them noticed the small group of humans quietly making their own plans, preparing to show the galaxy what creativity, determination, and human ingenuity could accomplish when everything seemed impossible. The Revelation and Victory 3. Days later, the combined fleets of the Galactic Defense Alliance hung in formation near the Kepler system, where the Void Reapers had been detected massing for their next assault. The sight was breathtaking and terrifying in equal measure. Hundreds of massive alien warships floated in perfect military formation, their weapons powered and ready for battle. The Saurian dreadnoughts formed the center of the battle line. their thick armor plating reflecting the light of nearby stars. Each ship was a floating fortress, bristling with missile launchers and energy cannons that could level mountains. Admiral Krekstar's flagship, the Dominator, dwarfed even the other Saurian vessels with its 3-mile length, and weapons that could be seen glowing from across the solar system, above and below the main battle line. The Luminar Collective's crystalline ships moved in graceful patterns that seemed to defy physics. High Priestess Zaralin's command vessel, the Transcendence, phased in and out of visible space as its quantum drives prepared for combat. Energy weapons that could tear apart matter at the molecular level hummed with barely contained power, surrounding the Allied fleet like a living cloud. General Vorthak's bioships writhed and pulsed with organic life. The hive mind's vessels grew larger and more aggressive as they sensed approaching battle. Millions of fighter-sized organisms detached from the larger ships, creating a swarm that blocked out the stars behind them, far behind the main battle. Formation almost forgotten, the human fleet maintained its assigned position in the support zone. Alina stood on the bridge of the UES Endeavour, watching the massive alien fleets prepare for combat. Her ship's sensors could barely track all the firepower arrayed before them. "Captain," reported Lieutenant Sarah Kim from the communications station, "we're receiving tactical updates from the Allied command. The Void Reapers are emerging from hyperspace at the edge of the system." Elena's main screen lit up with dozens of new contacts. The Void Reaper ships were unlike anything in the Alliance databases. They appeared to be made of some dark material that absorbed light rather than reflecting it. Their designs were angular and aggressive, with no apparent windows or external features that suggested living crews. "How many?" Alina asked, though she suspected she already knew the answer would be bad news. "Initial count shows over 300 vessels, Captain. They're arranged in a formation we've never seen before. It's almost like..." Sarah paused, frowning at her readings. "Like they're forming some kind of geometric pattern in space." Admiral Krekstar's voice boomed across the Alliance communication channels. "All ships, prepare for engagement. Saurian forces will advance first and draw their fire. Luminor vessels will follow with precision strikes. Bioships will engage any enemies that break through our lines. Support vessels will maintain safe distance and provide assistance as needed." Alina winced at the dismissive tone in the Admiral's final words. Even now, facing an existential threat to the galaxy, the aliens still saw humans as barely capable of basic support duties. The battle began with a thunderous display of firepower that lit up the darkness of space. The Saurian dreadnoughts opened fire with their main batteries, sending streams of antimatter missiles and plasma beams toward the Void Reaper formation. The weapons were so powerful that their light could be seen by the naked eye from planets several light-years away, but something was wrong. The Void Reaper ships didn't try to dodge or defend against the incoming fire. Instead, they absorbed it. The massive explosions that should have vaporized entire vessels simply disappeared into the dark hulls of the enemy ships, leaving no visible damage. "Impossible," Admiral Krekstar's voice crackled with disbelief. "Those were direct hits with our most powerful weapons. Their ships should be space dust." High Priestess Zaralin's response came through the quantum communication network, her usual calm disturbed. "Our energy weapons are having no effect either. The Void Reapers appear to be absorbing all forms of directed energy and converting it into something else." As if to demonstrate her point, the Void Reaper ships began to glow with absorbed energy. Then they fired back. The return fire was devastating. Instead of conventional weapons, the Void Reapers unleashed waves of dark energy that seemed to drain the life from everything they touched. Saurian ships that had withstood centuries of warfare suddenly found their armor crumbling like sand. Luminor vessels that could exist partially outside normal space were pulled back into reality and held there by forces they couldn't understand. The bioships suffered the worst fate of all. The dark energy didn't just damage them, it infected them. General Vorthok's living vessels began to turn against their own fleet, their organic systems corrupted by whatever malevolent force the Void Reapers wielded. All ships, fall back to secondary positions, Admiral Krekstar ordered, but Ali could hear the confusion and growing panic in his voice. Reform defensive lines and prepare for second wave assault. But the Void Reapers weren't giving them time to regroup. The enemy ships moved with impossible speed and coordination, as if they were all connected by a single controlling intelligence. They flowed around the Alliance fleet like water around rocks, striking at weak points and isolating individual ships from their support groups. Alina watched in horror as the mighty Saurian dreadnought Conqueror was surrounded by a dozen Void Reaper vessels. The alien ship's massive guns fired continuously, but every shot was absorbed by the enemy. Dark energy lashed out from the Void Reapers, and the Conqueror's hull began to dissolve. Within minutes, the 3-mile-long warship was gone, consumed by forces that defied understanding. "Captain," Marcus said from his station, "we're receiving a general distress call from the Allied command. They're requesting any available ships to assist in the evacuation of damaged vessels." Alina looked at her small fleet of 48 ships. They were fast and maneuverable, but their weapons were tiny compared to the alien vessels that were being destroyed all around them. What could humans possibly do against an enemy that could absorb antimatter explosions and weaponize the absorbed energy? Then she remembered something her grandfather had told her when she was a child. He had been a soldier in the old Earth wars, before humanity reached the stars. "Alina," he had said, "when you're facing an enemy with better weapons and stronger armor, don't try to fight them the same way they fight everyone else. Find their weakness and hit them where they don't expect it." Elena's mind raced through everything she knew about the Void Reapers. They absorbed energy weapons. They corrupted organic systems. They moved with perfect coordination. They were seemingly invincible against conventional warfare. But what if the problem wasn't that the Allied weapons were too weak? What if the problem was that they were using weapons at all? Marcus, Elena said suddenly, "Send a message to all human ships. Tell them to prepare for emergency acceleration. We're going in." "Captain, our orders are to maintain safe distance." "And our orders," Alina interrupted, "are about to change. Sarah, open a channel to the Allied command." Admiral Krekstar's massive face appeared on the main screen, his yellow eyes wide with desperation. Behind him, Alina could see the bridge of his flagship shaking from weapons impacts. "Captain Vasquez, this is not the time for human heroics. The enemy is too strong. We need time to analyze their capabilities and develop new strategies." Admiral Alina said, "With respect, I don't think you have time. But I have an idea. What if we're fighting them wrong?" "What do you mean?" Alina took a deep breath. "Every weapon you've used against them has been some form of energy. Plasma, antimatter, quantum disruption, biological warfare. What if they're specifically designed to counter energy-based attacks?" High Priestess Zarellan-esque voice joined the conversation. "Captain, all advanced warfare is energy-based. What else could we possibly use?" Alina smiled grimly. Kinetic impact. Good old-fashioned momentum. Humans never completely abandoned physical projectile weapons, even in space. Our ships may be small, but they're fast and they're solid. General Vortex, clicking translator, joined the conference. You cannot be serious. You want to ram your ships into enemy vessels. That is suicide, not tactics. Not ram, Alina corrected. Coordinate. Trust me, Admiral. Give us one chance. If it doesn't work, you can court-martial me later. Admiral Krekstar stared at her for a long moment. Around them, more Allied ships were being destroyed by the advancing Void Reapers. Very well, Captain. You have your chance. But I cannot risk the entire fleet on human desperation. Alina nodded. I understand. Marcus, signal all human ships. Operation Slingshot is a go. What happened next would be remembered in galactic military academies for centuries to come. The 48 human ships, instead of fleeing from the overwhelming enemy force, accelerated directly toward the Void Reaper fleet. But they weren't attacking randomly, they were working together with a coordination that rivaled the enemy's own unity. The human ships moved in perfect formation, their smaller size allowing them to maneuver between the massive Void Reaper vessels. As they flew, they began to fire not with energy weapons, but with simple kinetic projectiles. Chunks of metal and rock accelerated to incredible speeds by magnetic railguns. The Void Reapers tried to absorb the kinetic energy, but solid matter behaved differently than pure energy. The projectiles struck the dark holes and simply ... stuck. They didn't explode or release energy to be absorbed. They just created impact craters and structural damage. But that wasn't the real plan. As the human ships weaved through the enemy formation, they deployed thousands of small objects, not weapons, but simple magnetic clamps and cable lines. Working with the precision of a surgical team, the human fleet began to literally tie the Void Reaper ships together. What are they doing? Admiral Krekstar's voice was filled with amazement and confusion. Elena's voice came back, calm and confident. Something humans learned a long time ago, Admiral. Sometimes the best way to defeat a superior enemy is not to destroy them, but to make them defeat themselves. The Void Reaper ships, connected by the human cable network, tried to maneuver independently. But physics doesn't care about advanced technology. When one ship tried to turn left while another turned right, the cables connecting them created massive stress fractures in their hulls. When they tried to accelerate in different directions, they began to tear each other apart. The enemy's perfect coordination became their weakness. Because they moved as one, they couldn't adapt to being physically connected to each other. The dark energy weapons that had seemed so devastating began to discharge randomly as the ship's systems were damaged by their own attempts to break free. Within an hour, the mighty Void Reaper fleet was reduced to floating wreckage, destroyed not by superior firepower, but by human ingenuity and an understanding that sometimes the old ways work better than the new ones. The silence that followed was broken by Admiral Krekstar's amazed voice. Captain Vasquez, how did you know that would work? Alina smiled. As she looked out at her small fleet, all 48 ships intact and victorious. Admiral, humans have been fighting bigger, stronger enemies for our entire history. We've learned that you don't always need the biggest weapons or the strongest armor. Sometimes you just need to think differently. From that day forward, no alien species in the galaxy ever again made the mistake of underestimating the small, creative, and utterly unpredictable humans who would save them all. Asterisk.